I believe the witness is going to testify about a communication that he had with an incoming county council member, and that incoming council member gave him a certain instruction with respect to this project, and that he's going to probably testify about what his response to that instruction was, and he's also going to testify most likely about what another council member may have, the actual city council member may have told him about this project, and that later, after that person was sworn in, what his reaction to that incoming county council member's request was I believe, used as something cited as an act of insubordination. And so it goes to the line of questioning, and what we were starting to establish yesterday, was that we had this control group starting in June of 2008, continuing through December 31st of 2008. And that the chapter line and verse, they increasingly started acting like they were the county council. And it didn't matter whether they were sworn in or not. And in fact, in this instance, this guy told him something to do, and when he didn't respond the way he wanted, when he became a county council member, he cited it as insubordination. And that's the point. And there's another point, is that we had a line of question about some other things that he told him in this exact same time frame, that I think that it will inform the court about exactly
between June
this is
08 and January of 09.
Yes, and specifically what we're talking about now is the December of 08 time frame, after Mr. Cunningham had assumed the position as county administrator, and before these incoming folks had actually been sworn in and taken office, at least officially.
Your Honor, that's what he said yesterday. There's a time period that's relevant in this case, and that's leading up to the vote on November 18, 2008, when the severance agreement was approved. As a legal matter, the court can recognize or take judicial notice if it wishes, but there is no legal authority for newly elected county council members to do anything on behalf of the county until they're sworn in. That should be conceded. And so whether they were acting or talking amongst each other or giving a heads up to somebody that when we come on board, here's some of the things we're thinking about, has no bearing on the issues before the court, which was the signing of the vote for and the signing of a severance agreement worth $1.1 million to Joey Preston. Was that arbitrary and capricious at the time? So it had nothing after that time has any bearing on whether that was arbitrary and capricious at the time and whether there were tainted votes that supported that at the time.
Your Honor, is he dismissing all claims except for the arbitrary and capricious one? Because if he is, I'll take that.
I asked that question at the beginning of the hearings, what issues are still in the case. I didn't see that you pared any down.
No, sir. The tainted votes I just said.
Okay. Overruled. You may proceed.
Apologize, Your Honor. My water consumption rate is alarming this morning.
That's okay. We're talking a lot. So are others in the court. Not holding that against you. You may proceed.
Mr. Cunningham, what was the Broadway Lake project again?
It was a project to build a new community center on an existing county property on the shores of Broadway Lake.
And it's true, is it not, that in the December of 2008 timeframe, Mr. Moore had a conversation with you about Broadway Lake?
He did.
And Mr. Moore told you something that he had about concerns with the bidding of the project, right?
He did.
And he wanted you to halt progress on that project, right?
He did.
And he cited that there were problems with this bidding process, but he never told you what they were, right?
That's correct.
He never provided you with any sort of backup documents with respect to problems with the bid process?
He did not.
At the same time, and acting almost in concert with, Councilwoman Cindy Wilson also sent you a note, didn't she?
She did.
And what Cindy Wilson told you, sir, was that you needed to cease and desist the Broadway Lake project, didn't she?
That is correct.
It's true, is it not, that after the new council was sworn in January of 2009, sometime after that, there were allegations of insubordination made against you, were there not?
That's correct.
And one of the things that they cited was that you disobeyed Eddie Moore with respect to the Broadway Lake project.
That's correct.
You had another meeting with Mr. Moore, too, in December time, didn't you?
Yes.
And during that meeting, Mr. Moore came into your office, right?
That's correct.
And during that meeting, Mr. Moore posed a question to you. And he said, if I give you a list of employees, will you terminate them?
Yes.
And this was before Mr. Moore was ever sworn in, right?
That's correct.
And later, you found out that on the actual day that Mr. Moore was sworn in, he vowed that your time as administrator was now over, right?
I did hear that, yes.
At some point in time, you were terminated, weren't you, Mr.
Yes, sir.
Payne? And you were terminated because you were asked to sign a new contract.
That's correct.
And the new contract that they asked you to sign wasn't one that had a term, right?
That's correct.
So what you were asked to do was to forego your contract with the term and replace it with an at-will contract.
That is the term that was used to describe that particular contract, yes.
And this conversation this issue was first brought to your attention in the law office of Bob Walker,
That's correct.
where you had a conference, right, with Mr. Walker?
Yes, sir.
And Mr. Walker assured you that your family didn't have the financial resources to litigate this as far as it needed to go, didn't you?
Objection. Hearsay.
Admission by a party opponent, he was a county councilman.
Mr. Waldron in 2009.
Yes, he was. Should know that he was on, testified yesterday, he was on county council.
Preston, I'll address him today. Thank you.
Sorry. He was on county council until 2010, as he testified just yesterday.
That was my recollection. Overruled. Membership.
And what Mr. Waldron told you was that your family didn't have the financial resources to fight this battle as far as it needed to go, did you?
That's correct.
Mr. Waldron told you one more thing. Did he say that it was better to know the judge than the law?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Cunningham, I wish we could have met under better circumstances, but I appreciate you being here. Thank you.
You'll wait just 1 second, sir. Thank you. Thank you, sir. You may proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Cunningham, in December of 2008, you had a considerable amount of experience, would you say, in being at least the deputy county administrator?
Yes, sir.
Did you need Mr. Preston to help you do your job during that 31-day period of time?
I appreciated his help in doing my job.
Or did you need it?
Need, I would say no.
Mr. Davis asked you about your master employment agreement, which is exhibit number 9. I don't know if you still have that in front of you.
I have 2 copies of it, actually.
Okay. By and large, would you agree that that contract is very much the same as the master employment agreement under which Joey Preston was operating?
I can't give you a percentage. It is different from Mr. Preston's agreement, but the structure and form, I would say, is similar.
And they both have the same provision with respect to how long they last, correct?
Yes.
And you have had litigation with the county over that, your version of the contract, right?
Yes, sir.
If I may mark an exhibit as for identification, Your Honor. This would probably be number 96. Mr. Cunningham, I'm going to show you what I've marked as plaintiff's exhibit number 96 for identification. Just ask if you can identify what that is.
Reads Court of Common Pleas, 10th Judicial Circuit, civil action, number 2009 CP-04 1693, Michael Cunningham, plaintiff versus Anderson County defendant.
Would you agree with me that that is an order of judgment issued by Judge McAbee in your case against Anderson County?
Yes, sir.
And in that case, Judge McAbee granted summary judgment in favor of Anderson County on your claims related to your contract, correct?
Yes, sir.
And if you look at page 10 of that document for me, are you there?
Yes, sir.
At the bottom, the last paragraph, it says, in sum, the law in South Carolina is that once a new county council has taken office, a contract that deals with a governmental function and that purports to bind the new council is invalid as a matter of law. And a party to the contract has no right of action to enforce the contract or to seek damages for its breach for any period of the contract that extends beyond the term of the old council. Accordingly, this court concludes that Cunningham has no right to enforce the master employment agreement to the extent it purported to be for a term extending beyond January 4th, 2009. Isn't that what the judge ruled in your case?
Yes, sir.
And that case now, I believe, is currently on appeal, is that right?
Yes, sir.
Your Honor, we would offer exhibit number 96 in evidence.
Your Honor, I actually think that they may have a relevance problem. Here's why. It's not a final order of it. It's admittedly under appeal.
That doesn't go to relevance, Your
It
Honor.
doesn't go to relevance.
Well, how would it be relevant?
To the fact that it is a public record. I assume it's filed with the clerk's office.
But it goes to
Well,
one issue.
You're arguing the weight of it as opposed to its admissibility.
Well, if it's I guess my argument is this, Your Honor. If it's an order that's under
The weight
appeal.
of it, there's another time to do that.
Yeah, I mean, but if it's an order that is under appeal, it's something that has no finalization, then it's something that's in limbo. So, I mean, how can it happen?
I understand your position today, so I'll admit it, and you cannot argue the weight of it, but it's admitted.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Proceed.
Mr. Cunningham, to your knowledge, did Mr. Moore or any other council member elect in December of 2008, so before they took office, did any of them have the legal authority to act for the county?
No, sir.
Mr. Davis asked you about accusations and personnel issues that you became aware of in 2009. Remember that?
Yes, sir.
And then you indicated that you had heard about an accusation involving a county consultant and a county employee having an affair, right?
Yes, sir.
He didn't ask you much further about that, obviously, once you told him the answer, but the consultant issue was Representative John Scott.
That's correct.
Representative John Scott is a friend of Joey Preston's, correct?
An acquaintance. I'm not sure how close our friendship is, but
Are you aware, or did you become aware, that Representative John Scott had a consulting contract with Anderson County that predated your time as the county administrator?
yes, sir.
And that consulting contract had a generous buyout provision, it did not?
I was not aware of that until, again, Mr. Daniel brought that to my attention in, I guess, 2009, early 2009.
it was brought to your attention that Representative John Scott's consulting contract with the county had a generous buyout provision, right?
It was brought to my attention,
And
yes.
that's a contract that was signed on behalf of Anderson County by Mr. Preston.
That's correct.
Thank you, that's all I have.
Nothing further, Your Honor.
You may step down.
Your Honor, maybe excuse the witness.
Any objection to witness being excused?
None.
Sir, you're free to go. You don't have to stay, but you do remain under the court's order concerning sequestration of witnesses. You should not discuss your testimony with anyone until this case is ended. Thank you very much. May call your next witness.
Your Honor, Anderson County calls Mr. William McAbee.
Be in the courtroom.
He's just outside.
All right, clerk, will step out and ask for William McAbee. William McAbee.
I'd like to ask you to raise your right hand, please, sir. Do you solemnly swear affirm testimony you'll give the court today in this case to be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
If you would take the witness stand and state your name and spell your last name for the record, please.
I'm William Horton McAbee Jr., M-C-A-B-E-E.
Your witness, counsel.
Thank you, Your Honor. Your Honor, I believe we agreed yesterday that any witnesses that are associated with the other side, we may interrogate by leading questions.
Any objection?
That is our agreement.
I thought that would be the case. You may proceed, Mr. Thank you.
Good morning, Mr. McAbee. My name is Tally Parham. I'm here on behalf of Anderson County. Were you involved in the Sons of Confederate Veterans with Mr. Ron Wilson and Joey Preston?
Yes,
And you know those two individuals from that organization?
yes,
And you socialized with Mr. Preston?
I have, yes,
You served 2 terms on Anderson County Council, correct?
yes,
The first, you were elected in 2004,
yes,
and the second in 2006.
yes.
When you ran in 2006, did you actually run on a platform that was opposed to Mr. Preston?
No,
You did not.
I did not.
What about Mr. Ron Wilson? When he ran in 2006, did his platform include criticism or opposition to Mr. Preston?
Yes,
And Mr. Michael Thompson's 2006 campaign, did he also include in his campaign's opposition to Mr. Joey Preston?
not in 2006.
Was it another year?
Yes,
Okay, so at some point he campaigned against Mr. Preston.
yes,
Mr. Wilson and Mr. Thompson never actually took any action designed to carry out their promise or their campaign against Mr. Preston, did they?
they did not.
So Mr. Thompson and Mr. Wilson would be examples that someone who, proof of someone who makes a campaign promise does not always carry through with that promise. Is that correct?
Objection, Your Honor. Those are campaign statements of 2 other people. I don't know that there's a foundation that Mr. McAbee would know about.
I'll ask you to lay a better foundation for that.
Yes, Your Honor. Would you agree that Mr. Thompson and Mr. Wilson made promises or made statements in their campaign that were contrary to Mr. Wilson?
Objection, hearsay.
Not asking for the truth of the matter, sir, just asking if they made those statements. He's aware that they made statements such as that. I'll like that to them, whether they made statements such as that.
Could you repeat the question?
Let me put it this way. I believe you testified that Mr. Thompson and Mr. Wilson, during their campaign, made comments about Mr. Preston that were opposed to him or against him. But once they took office, neither one took any action against Mr. Preston. Is that an accurate characterization of your testimony?
Yes,
Now, you had your real estate license for 1 year, from approximately September 2007 until 2008.
That's correct.
And during that period, you were affiliated with Allison Properties.
Yes.
Who is Amy Plummer?
She's also an agent with Allison Properties.
And the two of you together operated a business that you called Fearless Economic Development.
Yes.
And the goal of that business was to do site consulting and sell real estate to companies locating in Anderson County.
Yes, commercial and industrial properties.
You also appointed her to the Anderson County Economic Development Advisory Board.
Yes.
Your Honor, may I approach the witness?
You may.
Mr. McAbee, I'm showing you what's been previously admitted as Plaintiff's Exhibit 57. Is that a letter from you to Ms. Plummer notifying her that you have appointed her to the Anderson County Economic Advisory Board?
Yes.
And you received one commission in your real estate career, is that correct?
That's correct.
Do you remember what the amount was for?
It was approximately $72,000.
Your Honor, may I approach?
You may.
Your Honor, this is a, if it's what I think it is, it's an exhibit that we, I believe the judge is here.
It's 60, I believe.
It's 60. I'm sorry. I was wrong.
Okay. You may proceed, ma'am.
I'm handing you what's been previously admitted as Plaintiff's Exhibit 60. Can you identify that for me, please, sir?
Yes. It is the commission check for the property I was involved in selling.
Do you remember which property that was?
It's a property located on Highway 20 north of Belton, approximately 30 acres.
Who was the purchaser of that property?
B&B Properties.
And who was the seller?
Steve K.
What was the property, what was the intended use of the property?
Lincoln Energy Solutions.